Hello future flight attendants, how are you all? कैसे हो आप सब? No, thank you so much for clicking on my video. For those of you who are watching my video for the first time, welcome. My name is Jay or Jayashri, whatever is easier for you to remember. I'm from a very small town from the eastern part of India in the state of West Bengal. I've been flying for almost 11 and a half years as a flight attendant, and with my videos, I aim to inspire, educate, and motivate the youngsters to join the much less known career in the aviation industry. So let's get rolling. So today we are going to be talking about actually one of my previous airline, my first airline. A very small quick review about how my first airline was as a workplace for the cabin crew. I cannot speak for other departments. Things might be different, but how it was for me as a flight attendant with my first airline, I am going to share with you guys. So my first airline was Go First. In 2011, I was 21 years old, and that was my first job in the aviation industry. I tried before 2011. I have sat for many interviews with different airlines. However, I failed in all of them. Needless to say, but Go First was kind enough to give me the opportunity, the much needed break, and the opportunity that I needed, that I was aspiring for in the aviation industry. So I want to thank Go First firstly for letting a fresher with unconventional looks get into their airline. Like when I say unconventional looks, I mean, like the Indian normal beauty standards. Like you have to be very fair, you have to have big eyes, and you have to have this and that, and like perfect features and everything. So at the age of 21, I wasn't the ideal Indian beauty standards, let's put it that way. And I was actually getting rejected mostly for that, even though my communication skills were top notch, but that's not always what the HR were looking for. So anyway, long story short, Go First was kind enough to give me the opportunity to showcase my skills with them. So it was, when I joined, it was a very small airline. They had, I think, 12 aircrafts, and they were one of the smallest in India at that point of time. They did not have any international routes at that point of time. They only were flying domestic. I don't remember the number of destinations, but yeah, one of the few destinations basically. But I think still they in a day they had maybe 20 to 30 departures, or probably a little bit more. But yeah, it was one of the smallest airlines at that point of time. This is when Kingfisher was also operative and Jet Airways was also in all its glory. My training was in Bombay. I loved the city as much as it was expensive, crowded, stinky, and the infrastructure not in place. I mean, like most other Indian big cities, I was in love with this place. I guess mostly because it was one of the first cities where I actually lived alone, and I had to like make all the decisions by myself, like from buying groceries to making my own bed and making breakfast in the morning to dinner, and every small decision was up to me. So it gave me my first taste of independence, which was amazing, which was awesome. It was intimidating, but it was enlightening as well. So so my training was at that time at Paper Box office, which was in Andheri East. The Kingfisher training also used to happen there at that during those years. And then after, I guess, 1 month of training, the whole training department moved to the corporate building of the Wadia Group, which owns the Go First airline basically. So they moved to Worli, which is South Bombay, and it was very far from where I was staying, in the east. So every day I had to keep 2 hours to reach, and then 2 hours to come back. So I mean, if you are from Bombay or if you are from any other big city, you know what I'm talking about here. The traffic is horrendous. So yeah, so then the training there was around 2.5 months, and the training was very competitive. There were many, some of my batchmates were actually, they had airline background and they knew a lot of stuff that I had no clue about. Also, some of them were very smart when it came to the safety knowledge and the first aid training. So it was nice to meet people, like of my age from different states and, from different backgrounds. And it was very interesting to know them. Overall, I would say the training was very, like enlightening in some sense. Like I learned a lot of things, and the trainers were very supportive. They had a very different approach to things in general. They were very energetic. So I don't want to take names because of obvious reasons, but yeah, the training department in 2011 was very, very nice. Very good people, good trainers. After I think 4 months, my first familiarization flight, we say, it's basically the flight where I don't operate as a crew. I just go in my uniform and observe the work and the safety procedures, the service procedures, and everything that happens in a flight. So that's called, I'm familiarizing myself with the operations on board. So my first FAM flights, short for familiarization, was from Bombay. I had 2 flights, and then there's something called a check crew. So the check crew is somebody who checks your observations and releases you, checks your knowledge and everything, and releases you to operate flight as an online crew. So I did my FAM flights from Bombay, and then I was posted to Delhi. So the Bombay base, base is basically where you're working from. So an airline could have more than one bases. So at that time, Go First had 3 bases actually: Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore. Bangalore was a very small base. Bombay was a relatively bigger base. It was actually the biggest base because the corporate office was there. So all the big shots were always traveling from there. The third base was the Delhi base, which was not as big, but it was still relatively bigger than Bangalore. Well, if you've stayed in both the states, there is quite a lot of difference in how people interact with each other in Delhi and in Bombay. My first experience, my first observation and experience of staying in Bombay was really good. I really liked the chill vibe there, and people didn't really bother you, and they had a different air about how they handled everything. They're very relaxed people. Bombay people are very relaxed, and I really like it about them. Delhi, however, was a little bit different. People in Delhi their personalities are different. I mean, I cannot, again, stereotype it, because from different states, it's a metropolitan city, so people from different backgrounds come and live there. But somehow there's a typical Delhi way which gets into them once they start living there for, some time. The way they talk, the way they walk, the way they dress, and everything. I mean, they are relatively loud people, louder than Bombay people, I would say. So yeah, and I experienced the same difference in the Delhi base as well. The crew, I would say, was friendly. 95% of the crew very friendly, very nice, colleagues, encouraging, hardworking, lovely to work with. The remaining 5%, I would not say the same thing. Some of them were really mean, especially when I was new, and I was just 21 years old, and I was so naive, and I was like the small little kitten from a very small town who had no idea about how things worked in a big city, So people took advantage of me many times. I was very hardworking, and there were people who took advantage of me big time, of my hard work and how I was in general. Taking advantage was one thing, but then people bullied me as well. At workplace, I had flown with seniors who took advantage of their position and threw their weight around. And the moment they see a weaker personality, they would stomp all over that person. So I was that person. I was stomped over again and again by these people. I would give, for example, I remember there was this flight, I was operating from Delhi to Bangalore, and we were 4 of us, and the 3 crew, they were senior than me, and I was the only junior most crew. So it was kind of like, they were ganging up against me, to bully me in some sense. And we used to have these small little briefings for 5 minutes before the flight, and basically the purser or the in-flight manager, how they call it in Go First, they were supposed to ask safety related questions. And in that flight, I was the only person who was asked, and that too like a super difficult question, which I managed to answer, but I was fumbling a little bit. One thing was that I was not very confident. I was new, and then also I was a little bit intimidated that there were 3 other seniors. So anyway, people at the base were not very supportive as well, like the managers, the assistant base managers and everything. 1 or 2 people were actually relatively, they were helpful, but then you could also see that they had this pressure of working in a toxic environment. So I felt that, and I can't blame them for that. But the other ones who were purposely bullying or trying to throw their weight around, like be it the manager or the in-flight managers or the buses, it was not cool. It took me a while to actually like learn the ways of the airline. I had many small incidents like this where seniors tried to bully me, and I was like I just took it for what it was, and I couldn't stand up for myself. It took me many years actually to eventually learn that if I don't stand up for myself, then no one would, and I would always be taken advantage of and bullied. So I will have no one to blame other than me. So if you are in a position like that, please stand up for yourself. Even if you're the junior most, you're the newest crew on board, and you have 0 experience, it's your first flight, to not get bullied. It's not cool. Always speak up and speak to the seniors. If your purser or your supervisors or your immediate senior is bullying you, please report it in a professional way to the base managers, the base people. If they are not taking you seriously, then take it further. Always stand up for yourself. They also, in India, there is this culture that you'll have to work with the same people, so do not try to spoil the relationship, the dynamics, because they will give you a hard time in your next flight. Let it be. If they give you a hard time on your next flight, you make sure you report them again. Do not get bullied. That's what I'm saying. Do not let people take advantage of you. If you have not done anything wrong, there is no reason for somebody to try to stomp over you and walk all over you. Yeah, stand up for yourself. So overall, well, my rosters in Go First were very decent. I used to fly for 80 hours. I rarely flew for 100 hours because obviously, it was a small airline at that point of time. I used to have enough rest. It was like not crazy hectic flying and all of that stuff. The roster was pretty good actually. And the rostering department were very helpful. Like if I wanted a flight, all I had to do was call them or send them an email and request for it. If they could accommodate, they did. Sometimes they didn't, but it all depended at that time, about the requirements and everything. But they were very approachable people, so it was very nice. Other than that, overall, I would say it was a good airline. I got a lot of experience, exposure. The management, the senior training manager was amazing. But also, like there are different departments, like this in-flight department, training department. So I wouldn't say the same for a few of the higher managers in that airline. Some of them, they have this power trip. So it's like, okay, I'm in this chair, so you better listen to me, even if I'm wrong. I actually had one of the managers traveling in my flight when I was operating, and she was seated on the emergency exit row where we are not supposed to keep any loose objects for takeoff and landing, be it a laptop, a book, or whatever. Everything needed to be secured. So she was sitting in the emergency exit, and she wanted the business class. We had something called Go Business at that time. I think there is still those the Go Business now as well. But anyway, we had pillows and blankets for Go Business at that point of time, and she wanted those, and we gave it to her because why not? You're an employee and we treat you as good as a business class passenger. So I went to her to collect those before landing, and she shouted at me, she screamed at me in front of passengers just because I was doing my job. And I would have understood if it was a passenger, it was coming from a passenger who did not know the rules. But this actually came from a manager who knew the rules of the airline, the safety procedures, who herself was a cabin crew at one point of time. So these things. So in India, if you come across these people, they have a power trip. Don't get intimidated by them. And she's just one of the few people I'm talking. I'm mentioning. I have had experiences with people like her in the same airline, in different capacities. So beware of these people. Do not take their bullshit, and stand up for yourself. And above all, whatever be it, in any workplace you will have people like them, but that doesn't mean that you stop yourself from getting this valuable experience that I did, or that you could have access to. So go for it, stand up for yourself, always, and be the original authentic self that you are. Be kind, be helpful, be courteous, be sincere, and do not take shit from anyone. All right, guys, this was 15 minutes of yapping. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do. I share a lot of aviation related information, including interviews, in my YouTube, in my Instagram and Facebook pages with the same name. So till next city, ciao people.